You know what's weird? If you randomly deposit $40,000 cash into your bank account tomorrow, the bank starts looking at you like you just buried somebody in the desert. But if a billionaire buys a penthouse through 3 companies in the Cayman Islands called Blue Ocean Holdings LLC, everybody suddenly pretends this is normal adult behavior. And that's when I realized something horrifying. Money laundering is basically society's way of saying, we do not care where the money came from, as long as the paperwork feels relaxing, because criminals figured out something terrifying about humans. If you make illegal money look boring enough, people stop asking questions, which is insane, because some of the most dangerous money on earth is hidden behind things that look aggressively normal. Pizza shops, casinos, real estate, even laundromats, which means somewhere out there, a man is folding towels while committing federal crimes. Today, we're learning how money laundering actually works. A man just bought a $14 million mansion using a company called Definitely Not Crime LLC, and somehow the bank approved it. That's when I realized something horrifying. Money laundering is not about cleaning money. It's about manipulating the story attached to it, because money itself is not illegal. The question is, why do you have it? And if your answer sounds like, entrepreneurship, while sweating through a silk suit, people start becoming emotionally interested in your finances. Now, when most people hear money laundering, they imagine a cartoon villain stuffing cash into a washing machine like an unstable Monopoly character, which honestly would be easier to detect. Real money laundering is way more boring, and that's why it works, because society trusts boring things. Spreadsheets, banks, paperwork, men named Richard wearing quarter zips. Nobody sees an Excel file and thinks, ah yes, international crime, which is exactly what international crime was hoping for. Anyway, imagine you're 5 years old and you suddenly walk into school with 4,000 chocolate bars. Now your teacher asks, where did you get those? And you panic because the truthful answer is a biker named Skullface, Randy, gave them to me behind a dumpster. That's basically the problem criminals have with money. They make money illegally, but eventually they need to explain it. Because you can't just buy a yacht with a suitcase full of cash and tell the IRS, don't worry, I'm spiritually gifted. That's not how civilization works. Well, technically it is for some billionaires. But for most criminals, that creates complications. So they launder the money, which means they make dirty money look normal. That's it. That's the entire thing. This giant, scary crime everyone talks about is basically criminals trying to create believable financial fan fiction. And to understand it, you only need to understand 3 steps: placement, layering, integration, which sounds less like financial crime and more like an overpriced skincare routine for divorced CEOs. Step 1, placement. This is where the criminal sneaks dirty money into the financial system because cash is dangerous. Cash attracts attention. Cash is basically money screaming, please investigate me. Imagine selling illegal drugs. Now suddenly, you have $3 million in cash hidden inside your apartment walls. First, that apartment smells insane. Second, you now have the world's most stressful interior design problem because illegal cash is weirdly difficult to use. You can't just walk into a Ferrari dealership carrying duffel bags like a side character from a Netflix documentary. Actually, you can, but then everybody remembers your face forever, and that's bad for business. So criminals need a way to slowly insert the money into society without triggering alarms. This is why cash-heavy businesses are perfect. Restaurants, bars, strip clubs, casinos, laundromats, which is deeply unfortunate for honest laundromat owners. Imagine spending 30 years removing spaghetti stains while everyone assumes you're hiding cartel money behind dryer chef. Anyway, here's how placement works. Let's say your pizza shop normally earns $2,000 a day, but secretly, you add another $8,000 of illegal cash into the register. Now the books say, wow, Americans are emotionally attached to mediocre pizza today. The dirty money now looks like business income. And once it enters the bank, it starts becoming less suspicious. Not clean yet, just emotionally camouflaged, like a serial killer holding a salad. Now comes layering. This is where money laundering turns into financial ADHD. Because layering is basically move the money around so much that nobody knows where it came from. Imagine hiding a body by throwing the pieces into 17 different oceans. That's layering. The money moves between bank accounts, countries, shell companies, fake invoices, crypto wallets, luxury assets, real estate. Which is why rich criminals sometimes sound exactly like investment influencers, offshore structures, asset diversification, complex ownership vehicles. That's not financial language anymore. That's just tax evasion wearing cologne. And this part matters because investigators follow patterns, so criminals create confusion because confusion slows down accountability. Your brain actually does this too. Whenever humans feel threatened, we create noise, excuses, distractions, technicalities. Money laundering is basically a nervous system defense mechanism with better accountants. And here's the disturbing part. Sometimes the businesses involved are completely legal. The hotel is real. The casino is real. The real estate company is real. Only the money is fake, which makes the whole thing creepier because crime is not always hidden in dark alleys. Sometimes it's hidden behind luxury office furniture and motivational LinkedIn posts. Now eventually, after enough transfers and chaos, the money reaches the final stage, integration. This is where the criminal brings the money back into the economy looking clean. Now it's investment profit, business revenue, property appreciation. At this point, the criminal can spend the money normally because the story finally makes sense, and humans trust stories more than evidence. That's important because financial systems are not actually tracking morality. They're tracking explanation. Can the money explain itself? That's the game. And honestly, human society runs on this exact principle. You know what a luxury brand is? An expensive story? You know what a college degree is? A very expensive story. You know what Instagram influencers are? People laundering insecurity into social status. Same mechanism, different lighting. Now, one of the biggest tools for money laundering is real estate. And this is where things get dark. Because real estate is perfect for hiding huge amounts of money. You buy buildings, sell buildings, overvalue buildings, hide ownership through companies, and suddenly dirty money becomes property investment, which means criminals can quietly park millions inside luxury apartments while normal people are eating noodles trying to afford rent? Cool economic system. And this is why empty luxury apartments exist in major cities. Sometimes they're not homes. They're storage containers for suspicious money wearing granite countertops. Now, casinos are another favorite, because casinos already involve money moving around chaotically. A criminal walks in with dirty cash, buys chips, gambles a little, cashes out. Now suddenly the money looks like gambling winnings, which is honestly genius in the same way a crocodile is genius. You respect it, but you also want it very far away from society. And then crypto arrived, which made governments collectively develop stress wrinkles overnight. Now, to be fair, crypto itself isn't evil. Normal people use it too, but criminals heard decentralized anonymous transactions and immediately started breathing heavier, because criminals love anything confusing. That's why scams always hide behind complexity. If somebody needs 47 diagrams to explain how money moves, there's at least a 30% chance somebody is laundering something. Maybe money? Maybe emotional trauma? Possibly both. Now here's something people misunderstand. Money laundering itself is often easier to prove than the original crime, because maybe investigators can't prove someone sold drugs, but they can prove why does this unemployed man own 6 nightclubs and a yacht named Tax Season? That becomes the trap. Criminals get caught trying to clean the evidence, like getting arrested not for murder, but because you searched how to dissolve fingerprints during breakfast. Now, psychologically, money laundering exposes something deeply uncomfortable about civilization. Humans trust systems they don't understand. Most people have no idea how global finance works. You swipe a card, numbers move, everybody pretends this makes sense, which means if somebody understands the system better than everyone else, they can manipulate perception, and perception creates legitimacy. That's the real secret. Money laundering is not about hiding money. It's about manufacturing normality. That's why criminals buy suits, luxury watches, high-end real estate, because humans associate wealth with success, even when the wealth itself came from horrifying things. Your brain does this weird thing where familiarity feels safer than truth. That's why people trust a man in a suit more than a nervous teenager telling the truth, which honestly explains like 70% of human history. Now governments try to fight this with anti-money laundering laws. Banks monitor transactions. Large cash deposits get flagged. Businesses have compliance departments, which sounds boring until you realize there are entire office teams whose full-time job is basically figure out whether Steve's Seafood Company is secretly funded by cocaine. And honestly, that deserves dental benefits. But criminals adapt constantly because every financial rule creates a new loophole hunter. That's the war systems versus exploitation. And exploitation is extremely motivated. Now, if you're still confused, here's the simplest explanation possible. Dirty money cannot enter society honestly. So criminals create fake stories that make the money look normal. That's literally it. That's money laundering. And once you understand that, you start noticing something weird about rich people. Some rich people are obsessed with looking legitimate, not rich, because deep down, humans know money is emotional. It's reputation, power, safety, status. And if you really want to understand how wealthy people think about money, real estate investors are probably the strangest example of all, because some of them don't even look at houses like homes anymore. They look at them like psychological weapons. If you want to understand that horrifying little mindset, check out this video. What is in the mind of a rich real estate investor?